But yeah, Santa's house. Imperial Palace. Fleming's always fun. Doesn't matter which version of the game it is. I'm going to show you some things that this update did. There's the standard upgrade material, which includes things like the bestiary. The problem is the bestiary is visual only. Like there's no information about any of these characters or bosses. Same ditto the characters. Wow, I've really never considered what Luna was supposed to look like up close. Interesting. And Lumina looks dumb. They switched the genders of Shade and Lumina, or at least I don't think their genders were ever explicit in the Super Nintendo release, but on Sega Densetsu 3 they were, and Shade was a woman and Lumina was a guy, but they switched them here, or they're the opposite. Shade's a woman or a man and Lumina's a woman. Salamando. Yep. Sylphid. Oh look, there's Emperor Vandal. Thanatos, Gestar. Jock. Sorry. It's actually not... No, you're not supposed to know that yet. Chrissy. Yeah. The worst thing... I'll show you one of the worst things in the game. Up here. It's really close to it, actually, so it's really convenient. So, one of the worst things in this game, right here. Not this. This is kind of... I mean, I'm not too fond of how big they are. They shouldn't be this big. But the mushrooms grew on me, especially since they still look like the original mushrooms. It's just a little bit bigger than I expected. But the Lilliputs... Look at that thing. The thing's hideous. It doesn't look anything like it should. For one thing, it does not blend in at all. You know, they're supposed to blend in with the surrounding flowers. And that's impossible here. Because they're hideous. They don't look like flowers. Look at the flowers around here. Look at that. You couldn't have made one. They couldn't have made one flower that was bigger, that was, you know, monster size, and then made Lillibud look like that. But no, no, it's just this monster, this hideous, gross, disgusting thing. So I'm not happy with Lillibud's the thing that makes me angry the most. Most of the voices are terrible, but I kind of like the sprite's voice. And I don't know. I like the voices in the fireside chats more so than in other parts of the game, and I think some of the voices have grown on me, but you can switch back and forth between Japanese and English, which is nice. And also completely turn off the voices entirely if you want, which I've done a few times, mostly when I'm leveling my magic. And every single line of dialogue in this game is voiced. Whether you think that's a positive or negative, I think it's a positive. I mean, it takes that it means it shows that they kind of cared about it, at least for the most part. The map is pretty much identical, but here's the thing: in the original Secret of Mana, there was a three monster limit, and they kept the 3 monster limit, but the other monsters that are able to spawn on screen, are able to spawn just off screen, the spawning in this is way more aggressive than it is in the other one. So there's certain places, not here. Here is actually pretty easy to deal with, but there's certain places like the Upperland Forest that become swarms. Like you can get overwhelmed actually, even though they kept the three monster limit, because as soon as you kill one, another one shows up, or if one goes off the screen, then a new one shows up, and like another problem is in the original one, they couldn't cast spells on you if they were off screen, but they can here, and it happens a lot. Particularly with those stupid eye things, those like eyeballs that turn you into moogles. But also with the worst addition for this, or not addition, but the worst upgrade for this version here, and that's the caterpillar things, because they just spam sleep flower and you get slaughtered because all the other enemies are attacking you while you're going to sleep. And that happens with a few of the magic enemies too. They'll just spam their magic. I think they're getting even with you for the way that, you know, you probably played when you were playing the game as a kid, right? That's their way of getting even with you. Say, see how you like it. And you cannot quite spam magic the way that you used to, but the magic has shortcuts. Tinkle barrier. Yeah. It's to keep you from tinkling on you. She's polite, you know, she's prim. And proper. So, of course, this starts with their default names. Like, you start with the default names, you can change them if you want. But the default names are just terrible. Like, the boys isn't that bad, but Prim and Popoi. Like, what? No, they're awful, and so I never use their default names, like, ever. I would never, ever do that. And I know that those are the names that were on the back of the Super Nintendo like case, the English case. And okay, that's great. So that's the names they're supposed to be. But they could have done like Earthbound and have multiple, you know, default names, which I think is better because those names are terrible. Or Pokemon, for that matter. Pokemon also has multiple default names. Same team that, you know, or some of the same team that made the original Pokemon made Earthbound. Like, there's some overlap there. And so, you know, rather than calling yourself the color of your cartridge and calling your opponent the color of the other cartridge, you can, you know, do Ash and Gary. A lot of people think that actually the Ash and Gary were just made up for the cartoon. Well, no, they were made up for the game. Probably simultaneously with the cartoon, but anyway. In fact, I don't know how the original Japanese one does it. Like, is there a Satoshi option that's one of the default names? I'm not sure. But in the Japanese, the defaults would be green and red anyway. It's really funny. If you have on their most aggressive, the most aggressive setting, and then you fly in with Flammy, the non-player characters will start going berserk, and they'll just like attack, attack, attack. Like, what are you attacking? There's nothing there. Well, as soon as you go off screen and come back, then something will show up. This game is glitchy as hell, and it's crashed on me about 7 times already. But also, I'll upload a video of my one of the glitches where my character disappeared. I think he kind of got stuck underneath the map, and so when you select him, it's the screen's all black. And luckily, you don't have to worry about the characters getting stuck, because there's no scroll lock like there is in the original game, which was just, I don't know why they would set it up that there was a scroll lock. There's no point in it. So that's an awful feature that's gone. Another awful feature that's gone is only being able to run in one direction and having it drain your stamina completely. As you can tell, running drains your stamina a lot less quickly, and you can run pretty much anywhere. So there's places where I can just zoom through it because I don't even look at the main screen. I just look at the mini map because that's the game that I recognize. See, look at this. No one would ever confuse that thing for that thing. And look, they even made big flowers here. Like, oh look, it's big flowers. That's how you could have made the monsters look like that. But no, they're these monstrosities. Completely ruins the point of the Lillibud. Because it's fully 3D and the characters are bigger now and more detailed, there's certain things that I'm realizing that I didn't when I was a kid. Like, this guy's a muscle man with geek glasses. And so, in the English version, they give him a nerdy voice, which is really funny. But I never noticed that about him. Like, that's probably what he's like. Maybe. I don't know. I have to go back and look at it and see if that fits. It might not, but sometimes it does, and I just didn't realize it. Like, the girl is an elf, or she's got, pointed ears. I never realized that she had pointed ears. One thing I find slightly annoying, and I know it's to fit the original Japanese version, but in the original Japanese version, they just don't use pronouns when talking about the sprite at all. And the use of gendered pronouns is actually pretty rare in Japanese, because it can have other implications, like just mentioning gendered pronouns can mean you're talking about a boyfriend or girlfriend. So, so it makes sense that the sprite's gender is kind of ambiguous, but in the original English version there was no ambiguity. The sprite was a male, and it throws me off because they use they to refer to the sprite. Now they changed he to they, and okay, there are times when they and them can be used as a singular, but in most of the cases when they're talking about the sprite, when they're talking about the they or them, those are not cases where they and them can be singular, and it confuses the crap out of me. Like, who's the they that you're talking? Oh right, I forgot. So it seems more like they're really going out of their way. See, I'm using they as a singular, I'm using it to refer to a company, which I guess is more than one person, but the translators, the translator could be one person. And see, that's a point when they as a singular is appropriate, because there's no ambiguity. Now the ambiguity isn't about the sex of the character, the ambiguity is about the plurality of the character. Or the plurality of what you're talking about. Are you talking about more than one or more than one? And so that's a little bit weird. I don't know. I've tried to do this review numerous times, but the sword and spear got seriously gimped, but the bow is so much better now. I mean, you're not going to be able to tell here because this is a really early area of the game, and so I'm going to slaughter everything regardless of what weapon I use. But with the bow, it even has a little bit of an auto-aim, whereas the javelin doesn't, and the boomerang doesn't either. So the bow is now like the best weapon in the game, which was definitely not the case in the original game. In the original game, it was the spear by far. The spear was the best, with the sword being second best, and boomerang being third. But now the boomerang is near the bottom, or on the bottom. The boomerang is the worst now. No, you know what? I take it back. The javelin's still the worst. So the boomerang's second worst. And the sword and the spear are actually still pretty bad too. And the axe moves up just because it's stronger in some cases, but it actually also hits. Like, the sword and the spear miss so often now that they're not worth using anymore. Which is kind of funny, because the game is supposed to be Legend of the Sacred Sword. So the sword is supposed to be everything, right? Except that it's terrible. It's a terrible weapon. So that's my current thoughts. Hopefully it recorded all of it.